If you're like most golfers, you probably think you need to keep working on your swing to play better golf and shoot lower scores. But here's the thing, you could have a fantastic swing that is super consistent and you're right there every single time, but if you can't score well, who cares? If you want to master your game, you need to learn these 7 course management tips in this video coming up. Hey, I'm Michael Leonard, the creator of Wicked Smart Golf and a fellow amateur golfer like yourself. Now, my golf game has really transitioned over the years. In high school, I was shooting in the 120s freshman year to getting into the 70s, playing a little bit in college, and now am a +1 golfer that plays in a ton of competitive events, USGA qualifiers, Arizona Amateur, and all kinds of stuff in between. Now, the reason I share all that is because I've played in so many events over the years. I always thought, though, in the beginning that it was all about the perfect swing. It was all about just getting that Tiger-like swing or Rory swing or Adam Scott, whoever you think has that perfect swing. I always thought that was the key to shooting lower scores. Now, don't get me wrong, a consistent swing will help you produce lower scores. At the same time, if you don't have the right course management techniques out there, you are going to be wasting shots left and right. And honestly, I think that's one of the most frustrating things. There is nothing worse than hitting it well and scoring pathetically. That sucks, but it happens. And a lot of times it happens from poor course management. Inside my golf book, Wicked Smart Golf, I talk a ton about the importance of course management, but you know what? We are not going to call it course management anymore. Instead, we're going to call it playing Wicked Smart Golf. Today's video, I have 7 tips that will help you think wicked smart on the course. Alright, so the first course management tip here is to put some more thought into our approach shots. I love rangefinders, but I think at the same time they have made us worse as golfers. Now, don't get me wrong, it's great to walk up to your ball, laser it, and know exactly what the distance is. But that is where most amateur golfers screw up. Just because you laser the flag at 150 or 120, that does not necessarily mean that is the distance that you want to hit the golf ball. We need some more assessments. So one of the things you want to think about is distance. Of course, that is one thing, and you should start there. I think that's always a good thing. But then we want to think about 3 other things. First off, what is the lie going to do? Is it in the rough or is it in the fairway? If you're in the rough, you need to start playing more conservatively in general because spin rates are going to vary greatly from the rough, and even the best players struggle with getting consistent spin out of there. So first off, if you're in the rough, you're probably going to need to play more consistently, or as I say, respect the rough. Now, a fairway lie is a little different because you know it's not going to jump on you, and it's going to have the right spin that you practice with, so you kind of anticipate the shot a little bit. So once you assess the lie, the second thing is where is the pin located? Is it in the front, middle, or back of the green? If the pin is in the front, add a few more yards to it, so that way even if you don't hit it perfect, you will actually be pretty close to the pin. If you do hit it a little too good, you'll be in the middle of the green. But the problem is most amateur golfers don't take enough club to begin with, and then when they don't hit it perfectly, they're going to be short. And if the pin's in the front, not only are you short-sighted, that's usually where most of the trouble is. That's usually where the deep grass, the bunkers, and water is. So again, take a little bit more club to that front pin. A middle pin, you can pretty much take it as is. The back pin, you want to think about it like a front pin. Similarly, you want to actually take a few yards off. So if a back pin's 130 yards, hit your 125 club so that way you don't hit it long and short side yourself. The third thing we need to think about with the shot is what is the weather doing? Is it cold or is it hot? If it's super cold, the ball is not going to travel as far, so you need to account for that. Conversely, if it's super hot out, the ball tends to go farther, so you need to also account for that. And the final thing to think about with weather is the wind. Is the wind into you? Is it left to right? Is it right to left? Or is the wind behind you? Now, I know this sounds like a lot to think about over every approach shot, but once you really start to get this process down, it'll become automatic and take like 10 seconds. Because again, we want to make sure that we're giving ourselves the best chance to hit the green and not short-side ourselves if we don't. Short-siding yourself is going to lead to tough up and downs, some bogeys, and likely some double bogeys too. Course management tip number 2 is to make sure you are sticking to your pre-shot routine. Now, if you look at the everyday golfer versus the elite players out there, you will notice a big difference in a pre-shot routine. The elite player, the pro, highly skilled amateur, they have a routine that they go through every single swing to help get them in the zone. Meanwhile, amateur golfers are out there. Sometimes they'll take a practice swing. Sometimes they'll just walk up and hit it. Sometimes they'll take practice swings next to the ball. Sometimes they'll take them behind the ball. There's no consistency. And you know what? Don't think about it even just for golf. Think about it for other sports. Routines set you up for success. Field goal kickers, they are going through their routines and the number of steps they take and then where they're aiming and then that whole cadence to get them more likely to actually make the kick. NBA players, when they are getting those free throws, they are going through their routine, their dribbles, the way they spin the ball, where they look, how long it takes. They are doing all that to set them up for success. Now, since golf, the ball isn't moving like other sports, you have the ability to go through a routine every single swing. So I highly recommend that you create your own on the driving range so that it becomes automatic on the golf course. The third pre-shot routine is to stop caring so much about that first tee shot. So many of us let our entire round get sabotaged by what we do on that first tee or that first hole, when in reality, the first tee shot doesn't matter. I have hit fantastic, amazing, just huge tee shots out of the gates and made bogey and double bogey. Now conversely, I've hit terrible tee shots and went on to make pars and birdies. Look, one swing is just that, one swing. So do not let it dictate or influence the rest of your round. On the driving range, make sure you're going through and hitting the club you're gonna hit on the first tee to set yourself up for success. When you're on the first tee, go through your routine. If it works out, great, on to the next one. If it doesn't, again, move on. It does not dictate the rest of your round. All right, the fourth tip to be a wicked smart golfer with great course management is to just never trust tee markers. Now, this sounds really simple, but if you look at tee markers, a lot of times they are aligned perfectly with where the fairway is and if it doglegs right or left. But a lot of times they might just get tossed up there. Maybe the greenskeeper had to mow, he was in a hurry, he didn't really look at where the tee markers are aimed. A lot of times amateur golfers just get up there and they're aiming based on the tee markers. But you should never trust these tee markers and always create your own alignment. Because if you're accidentally aimed 20 yards right because that's where they're right, and then you hit it dead straight, you're gonna be like, oh, maybe I pushed it or I sliced it. When in reality, that's exactly where you were aimed. So again, just make sure and have 1 second awareness when you're up on the tee box to see where they're aimed. If they're aimed where you want to aim, great. If not though, we want to make sure we're picking our targets and that way you're not wasting any shots off the tee. Right, so I think one of the things that people really don't like about the term course management is, again, they think they always have to aim for the middle of the green. But when you really look at the stats from the PGA Tour using ShotLink data, you really should aim at the middle of the green. Now look, I'm not saying it's not always the most fun. Just look at the numbers. The PGA Tour average is about, what, 60+% of greens in regulation. So even the best players in the world are missing a lot of greens. The average amateur golfer is missing way more greens than that, and so they are going to have a lot more chips and pitches to try and save par. But you probably won't miss as many greens if you do aim for the fat part or the middle part more often than not. Here's a good rule. If the pin is in the middle or the fat part of the green, you can aim at it, take dead aim with any club you have in the bag, whether you're hitting a 3-wood into the green or a sand wedge. Doesn't really matter, unless maybe there's like a big lake on one side, maybe go a little bit to the other side just to favor it, but in general, that's okay. But if it's tucked back right behind a bunker, and that bunker pretty much is a double bogey trap, then don't aim at it unless you have a wedge or less. If you're in those mid-irons, then again, you want to maybe go a little bit more towards the middle, but maybe you can still get towards the flag. But really, anything outside of 150 yards, I think you should be aiming at the middle of the green. Again, you want to just give yourself more opportunities on there for birdie putts. The more you're trying to go at the flag, the more short-sighted you're going to get yourself, and honestly, just the more bogeys and double bogeys. And not only are those tough on the scorecard, obviously, they kill momentum, and momentum takes holes and holes to usually build up, and you don't want to lose that precious momentum mid-round because then you have to take a few more holes to kind of get back on it. So again, I know it's not always the most fun, but man, if you actually want to shoot lower scores, just stop being so aggressive all the time, especially if you're an inconsistent player and you have long clubs into the greens. Just do everything you can to get yourself on the green more often than not, and I promise you are going to start shooting lower scores. All right, before we jump into tip number 6, I want to know, what is your best course management tip that you've ever received? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, tip number 6 is pretty simple, but you'll find it to be wildly effective. You need to club up a little bit more often with your approach shots. If you think about most holes on most golf courses, trouble is short. That's where the water, the deep rough, the grass bunkers, and the actual sand is gonna be. And you know what? The more often you're ending up in those situations, the less likely you are to actually get up and down and save par. Even the PGA Tour, again, these are the best players in the world. Their average for sand saves is only 50%. And these guys are wedge wizards out of there. You're just inviting more bogeys and doubles into your life when you're ending up short of the green. So again, club up, because if you hit it perfect, you're gonna be in the middle of the green, or maybe even the middle back. Or if you do miss long, you're gonna have a chip that hopefully will be easier than whatever is short of the green. But if you don't hit it great, like most of us do, I mean, how many times do you go out there and hit every single shot at 100% exact distance that you want? Look, a lot of times we're gonna hit them a little thick, a little thin, might be some wind, maybe it was uphill, and you're gonna be a little bit short of that distance, especially with weather too. So when you don't hit it perfect, you're still on the green, and you actually might be close if it's a front pin. So again, club up. If you have slope on your rangefinder too, and it's obviously not a tournament round, just use the slope sometimes, because I found that a lot more greens are even uphill if you can't see it from the naked eye. It can be 3 or 4 yards, but again, that could be a big difference in your club selection. So club up so you can hit more greens and avoid that trouble short. All right, the final course management tip here is to accept the result of the shot. Whatever happens, good or bad, the last part of your routine always has to deal with acceptance. So many of us let that shot linger until we get up there and we're still mad when we find the ball in the bunker, or we find the ball in the fringe when we thought we were gonna hit it close, and we're just still thinking about that and not giving the next shot our 100% focus. So again, it's time to get out of the past. Now, a great way to accept the shot and move on to the next one is have some sort of trigger. So you can do this 2 ways. One is the second you undo your glove, that's when you know the shots that just happened, you can't change it, it's time to move on to the next one. Another way to do this is to just put the club in the bag. Once the club goes in the bag, that is a signal to your mind that, hey, we're done with that shot, we are on to the next one. Accept your shot, move on with 100% focus, and I guarantee you are not gonna let your mood and those past emotions ruin the future. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed those course management tips. These are tips directly from my book, Wicked Smart Golf. It's available on Amazon. Inside it is a lot more of this simple, easy to apply tips, because my goal with this brand is simple: help you play better without changing your swing. Inside this book is 111 ways to do just that. More about this by clicking the link down below, or just searching for Wicked Smart Golf on Amazon. Hopefully you can use these tips and start shooting lower scores today. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I hope you have an epic day on the links.